This is Anhaa on Ramadan FM, Korea's chat for Muslim women. I hope everyone is well, inshallah. Um, I've got Asma joining me again today. How are you, Asma? So, just got a few technical problems. So, I think what we're talking about today with Asma is online learning. And if you want to phone in, then you could WhatsApp the studio 07591 970 241. So online learning. Asma, are you there?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Anha. I'm not sure what happened, had some technical issues, but I'm back
Yeah,
on.
don't worry, it's fine. So I was just saying that our topic today is online learning.
Oh, okay. Definitely, Anha. That's the topic that you and I have a lot to say about, don't we?
Yeah, definitely, especially as we have both got degrees through the Open University. So we'll talk about online learning and how
Yeah,
it's so accessible these days, and how it's definitely, in the past it used to be the backup option, but now it's definitely the preferred option in this time and age.
yeah, and like this is online learning. This is something that I've done myself. I've gone through this route. Anha quite shortly after took this route herself as well, and had decided to stay a bit longer and do her masters with this route. And yeah, it's definitely been something that's it's given us a lot of experience. It's given us a wealth of knowledge for sure. And Alhamdulillah, it is something that's like in COVID times, it's something that seems to be the way forward now, when everyone
Yeah,
has
and
to.
there's so much flexibility with it. So, especially for us Muslim women, where we're wearing so many hats, and sometimes education is the last, is the least prioritized. So, with this sort of flexibility comes the option to actually go through with it and make it a priority.
Yeah, so Anha, before we dive into the show, shall we give them a bit of a background information about what we did for our online learning and just introduce the listeners to our background when it comes to online learning?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do that. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So, my name's Asma, and I have it's been about 5 years or so. I Since I graduated, I was a student with the Open University. Now, many of you may or may not have heard of the Open University, but it's an online platform where you learn your education through the online route, and I completed my degree in social sciences. I graduated in social policy. It took me 4 years to complete my degree. I started part time and then I went full time because of the commitments that I had. So all my learning was done through the Open University. My degree, my everything was done through the online platform. And at the end, there was a graduation ceremony which I did had to attend, which I chose to attend to.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my experience. That's my background when it comes to me and the Open University. What about you, Anha?
Yeah, so before I talk about myself, I just wanted to say that, when you mentioned the Open University, when as you're going through your career, you're a teacher now, did having a degree from the Open University and online institution affect you in any way?
Not at all, not in the slightest, not at all. Me, in fact, I think when I applied, so after I completed my degree, I did my postgrad, and in fact, I would say that when I was applying in my application and the interviews that I went for, the interviewers were quite impressed that I had a degree with Open University. I mean, This was pre-COVID times, like we're talking about pre-COVID times. So I don't think um, many people were that into online learning at that time,
Mm.
and they were very impressed at how, like, how the whole system worked, how determined I had to be in order to continue and complete the course with the Open University.
Exactly, because that requires a lot of dedication. You're giving up
Exactly.
your free hours, and it's a balancing act between your other commitments. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely a huge achievement.
and
Um,
I think definitely, I think that was also the dedication that they saw that I had because I studied through the Open University. That was a selling point for
mm,
myself. Alhamdulillah, that didn't affect my applications in any way. In fact, it made me more of a potential candidate for the courses that I was applying for. Alhamdulillah, and it didn't affect me being accepted for my postgrad and graduating, and enabling me to continue with going on to my pursuing a career. So Alhamdulillah, it's all worked out really well. Um, but yeah, so the Open University definitely helped. The skills that it teaches you, and like you said, Anha, like definitely, like, you have to make time for your studies with the Open University, or when you're doing online learning, or when you're learning from home. You have to create a timetable where you sit and you have to dedicate those hours, or that time just for your studies or just for learning on the
mm,
online platform. And for
exactly.
some, that's a challenge, because they need someone to actually physically give them a timetable and sit, and they need to physically attend classes. But for me, it worked out quite well because I could work it around my own personal timetable,
Yeah,
and whatever was going on at home, at my whatever was the situation, etc. My day-to-day routine, flexibility. It worked for me. That whole setup completely worked for me.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so you were saying earlier that I started the Open University after you, and yeah, so due to your encouragement and your advice, I decided to
That
also study with the Open University. So yeah, it's all thanks to you that
you too much on
I
her.
started. But I think with me, the reasons for doing it were different to you. So you obviously wanted to fit around your life, whereas
Yeah.
for me, I basically left my A levels halfway because of a situation. So then I didn't have A levels to actually go to a brick university, which is like a physical university. So then I thought, instead of restarting my A levels, do you know what? I'm just going to go straight into it, because the Open University, they don't require you to have A levels. So in fact, you can even start at 16 or even younger. So it's really good in that way, because they in the first year they assess you on your writing skills, academic skills, and then it builds up through that way. So yeah, so I think if there are any 16-year-olds listening now, instead of going through the A-level system and then going through to uni, which I think um, brick universities now, I think they're going to go more online because of the past year, where they've learned that a lot of resources can be saved through going online. So yeah, that's my advice. If there are any really young people listening out there, just go for the Open University. You'll save 2 years. You'll save a bit of money. Yeah. So what I was saying was, yeah. So Asma, you were asking me about my experience where I started. So I started it, and at the time, I think another reason why I didn't go to university is because I didn't know what subject to qualify in.
Mm.
I'm
'Cause,
interested in so many subjects, from English to science to everything, a bit of everything. So luckily for me, there was a degree out there for me which catered to my needs. It's called the Open Degree. Um, so basically, with the Open Degree, you mix and match modules, and at the end, you get 360 credits, which make up your degree. And yeah, so in my degree, I studied creative writing, I studied English grammar, studied some Spanish. I studied what else? Law, society, and culture. Yeah, so many history of medicine in the part in Europe. So yeah, so it's a bit of a mix and match degree that I've got, but it's not held me back in the same way as you, Asma, where a degree is a degree at the end of the day, and it's just shown that commitment to your studies, and it's shown that higher level of education, which has really helped me now in my career as well, where it's not been a barrier for me. So if there's anybody out there who, even a lot of people do the open degree for fun as well. So I did it for a bit of both, for fun as well as to help me progress in my career as well.
Whereas for me, although I completely get where you're coming from, like when you said that you did you didn't complete your A levels and you went straight on to you went straight into open learning. Whereas for me, my narrative's slightly different. I completed my A levels and then I went on to the open university. I completed my A levels and then in my mind, I thought I would go to a red brick university or a university like an actual university building. But unfortunately, like circumstances, etc., I that plan didn't work out, and I whatever the consequences or whatever what was going to happen, I wanted to get a degree under my belt. So the time the open university was an option, and I knew a few people that were doing the open university, that were studying through the open university, and they were really flexible. They were doing lots of different things. Some of them had like a family life, home life. Some of them were like relocating to different places at the time, but at the same time they were still continuing with their education. They were still getting their degree. They were still learning. And I found that quite fascinating. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why at that time I thought that I should go up for the open university route. But I did my A levels, and I would, in fact, I would advocate the listeners that to do A levels. Like I would say, do your A levels if you can, because when I did my A levels, that opened up my horizons, and it made me see which subjects which subjects interested me and which subjects didn't. So when I did my A levels, I knew that okay, when I go to university, I'm definitely not going to be, I don't know, I'm definitely not going to be getting a degree in Spanish because I find it far too difficult. I had it narrowed down my options, and it was more about streamlining my degree and streamlining my options and choosing a degree quite specifically that would hopefully allow me to get a career in that field later on in the future.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way of looking at it.
Whereas you go for the open route, didn't you? So like the open degree where you can, you've got the option, you've got the flexibility of different subjects and different topics. But yeah, which I think is really cool. Like hats, I really admire you for that, and that takes a lot of courage because you're constantly learning your different things. You're switching between subjects, and you have to allow yourself to be really like flexible and go into one zone and then adjust yourself and go into a different learning zone because it's a different topic altogether. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting though. And one thing that I learned from that open degree experience was the fact that everything's connected. So I'd learn something in my science module, and then I'd connect that somehow to the law module where we're talking about, for example, what's it called? When lie detectors. So they talk about the lie detecting and how that works, and what it means for cases. And then I'd learn about it from a scientific point of view, where how does the lie detector work from a scientific perspective, and how can it sometimes go wrong as well. So yeah, so I think as we move into the future, we'll see more of this sort of mix and match type of learning, because everything's connected, and when you are connecting different things together, that makes basically you learn better as well.
Definitely, you're applying your knowledge into different areas, into different spheres of topics and different, So yeah, you're definitely right. I think you were making those connections. You were making connections between history and law, and all these other amazing subjects that you were studying. You had to make those connections. Whereas for me, on the other hand, it was more about, okay, it's just sociology, social science on that route.
Yeah,
Um, I didn't do much. In fact, there was a bit of psychology involved in my course, but it was more of like the arts and the humanities that were there. I didn't do much science in itself,
yeah.
um, much maths or languages. That didn't really come into play into my degree. It was quite narrow, it was quite streamlined,
Mm,
and I wanted it like that because then I could get the depth and the breadth of that subject.
exactly.
Um, myself. Whereas you had like the breadth because you had lots of different things that you were doing and learning, and you were making those connections.
Mm.
Um, but yeah,
So what would you say about the quality of the Open University materials, the tutors? What would you say about that?
yeah. So I would say, well, in the first few years that when I started the Open University, so that it took me 4 years to complete my degree. So in the first 2 years or so, it was it was quite phenomenal in the sense that like everything would be sent out to you in the post. They
Mm,
would send you your books. They would send you resources. They would send you CDs. I don't know if people really use CDs nowadays, but those CDs that you
yeah,
slot into your laptop computer. Yeah, so they used to send that in the post to us, like, and each CD had a different module on them or a different topic. So what you would have to do in terms of learning, the procedure of learning would be you'd go through the book, you'd go through that chapter, you'd slot in your CD, you'd listen and you'd watch a couple of videos on that same topic, and then you'd always have a tutor at hand, at the other end of the phone that you could contact, you could call up, and if you were stuck or if you had any questions, you would just talk to your tutor and they would guide you. They would guide you with your learning. Um, so that's how it was in the first few years, and then later on, I think in order to reduce carbon emissions, etc., and to be more eco-friendly, everything was online.
mm,
So the Open University didn't post out books anymore, physical textbooks anymore. Your textbook would be like an ebook online. You would
yeah.
have an ebook. You would flip through the ebooks, videos. Everything was on an
What about the
online
quality
platform.
of them? Like, what about the learning material itself? Would you say it was dodgy, or would you say it was, really high quality?
Yeah, I would say it was a high quality on her. Like I would say it was fairly up to date. Like most of the researchers, and most of the studies and the case studies that were mentioned, it was quite up to date. So the quality of learning,
Yeah,
everything
I
was
agree
quite,
with you, definitely.
yeah.
And you know
The
what you
quality of
said
the,
about them sending books to you? I
yeah.
think if you do decide to study with the OU, they can send you books if you choose that as well. So I think
Okay.
automatically they do it all online. But then if
Mm,
you want to have books, they'll send that to you as well, because everyone learns a different way, and that's really good about the OU, where they recognise that. And if you want audio learning materials, they'll give that to you. They basically cater to whatever you need.
mm.
And they're really helpful. I remember, like, every time I used to phone the student support up, they'd just be so helpful, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they was definitely really, really helpful. Really, really try to, answer your queries to the best that they could, and, really try to get through to everything and followed up all the information and everything. But yeah, but you see, when I started my degree, when I started with Open University, when I started studying, they sent books out, and there wasn't much of the online learning, the
Mm.
online platform. It was there, but it was more in the background.
Yeah.
Um, and then a couple of years later, I was there when the transition happened, where everything was moving to the online learning. So
Mm.
I was in the time where everything was moving to the online. I remember I did find that slightly difficult. I did find the whole online learning difficult at the start, just for a few months and stuff also. But then I persevered, and I didn't request for books. I should have done that. But in a way, looking at it, it's a blessing in disguise that I didn't request for books because it allowed me to adapt and adjust to a more of an online learning platform.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I was spending more time on screen, reading ebooks, etc. And yeah, but you're right, definitely the Open University, they do cater to different learners of different types.
Mm.
um, they recognize that and they really try to support you so you get the best out of what if you get the best education that you possibly can with
Yeah.
them.
So the way it works is that in a module year, you'd basically have 3 or 4 assignments, and then at the end you'd have a final assignment. And for some subjects, like for example, maths or English, no, maths or science, you might have a physical exam where you'd go to a centre and take the exam. But for most subjects, they just have an online exam. Sorry, no, an online assignment which you have a few weeks to complete, and then you give it in. So from that perspective, if you're not into coursework or not really into exams, then this the Open University is quite a good option for you as well.
Yeah. So for my course, it was pretty much the same. It was handing in assignments, which is like a coursework essentially. You just have to prepare your assignment, and then you have to submit it online. You type it all up on your laptop, and then you submit it. You go through to your Open University account, and then you submit it online. So I had quite a few assignments, but in some of my courses, there was an exam based task.
Mm,
I remember for the exam-based task, they give you a few centers where they were hosting the actual exam. You had to,
mm,
let which center was the closest to you, or which center you would prefer to attend to. You'd go to the center on the day. It's just like a normal exam. You'd go there early in the morning or whatever time your exam's meant to be. You go there, you register, you sign yourself in, and then you get taken into an exam hall, and then we had to all sit there, and they hand out the papers, just like how it is when you do your GCSEs, when you're sitting in the gym hall, one of those kind of things.
yeah,
um Much like that, you just go in, you sit there individually, they hand out the papers, complete silence. There's invigilators walking around, they give you your paper, you bring your pens, etc., and that's it. You just scribble away, you just start writing until time's up.
yeah.
um,
So we've just got a few minutes left, Asma. I wanted to ask you, have you had any experience of other online learning apart from the Open University?
I've only done the Open University for to achieve my degree, but I've done Open University at work. We do quite a bit of CPD online, which is
Mm,
very similar to the Open University in terms of their learning strategy. So they provide the information online, and then you need to answer some questions online as well.
yeah.
That's very, very similar to the Open University. And I've got to say that I think I adapted to that quite easily because I obviously had the prior experience of studying with the Open University and studying online. Um,
Yeah, for me, I've actually studied on Open Learn, which is like the sister site of the Open University, except everything on Open Learn is free, and they're just really short courses, and you can find any course that you want to do, and you just type it in the search box, it'll come up. And I've also done Future Learn, which is another really, really innovative a platform, which is quite different to the Open University as well, and they actually do bite-sized bite-sized learning as well. So yeah, so there's so many things out there for everybody to do, and me and Asma, we definitely recommend the Open University, especially for our Muslim sisters, where we've got so many responsibilities, home life, and we might not have had the chance to complete all our education, or we might be thinking of doing a degree later on in life. So
mm,
learning is lifelong, isn't it, Asma? So
you know, there's
yes,
no
yeah,
to the grave. Al-ilm min al-mahdi al-lahad, meaning it's from your cradle to your grave. You have to continue learning. Learning is lifelong. And also, I think, Anha, we should let our listeners know that when you do study with the Open University, at the end, when you do complete your course, you do achieve a certificate, a recognized certificate, a qualification. So it's not that you're just studying and then nobody's recognizing it. No, like your learning is recognized. You do achieve a qualification. You do achieve a certificate. You can attend graduation ceremonies as well. You know, you get to wear the robe. If you want to wear the robe, you can wear the hat. Well, I when pre-COVID times, it was I went to my graduation ceremony. But yeah, it's you're not missing out at the end goal. You're not missing out in achieving the end goal.
So we've got 30 seconds until the ads come up. Jazakallah khair for everyone that's tuned in. Jazakallah khair, Asma, for joining us today. And I think to summarize, learning is for life.
Yeah. Learning is for life. Don't stop learning, even if you think that your circumstances, because of your circumstances, you can't achieve an education, you can't achieve a degree. Don't think like that. There are other options out there for you. There's the Open University, there's open learning, there's other routes for you to achieve education, to go out and learn and to get some qualifications and to allow that to to open up doors for you and for your future. So don't give up, and there's always something there for everyone, and the Open University recognizes and caters for that.
100%.
Yeah.
Please make dua for us, everybody.
Inshallah. And thank you, Anhaa, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure talking about the Open University and open learning and, learning from home. And inshallah, I hope the viewers have benefited from this. And don't give up. That's the message for me.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Okay, wa alaikum assalam, Anhaa. Wa alaikum assalam.
To all of our wonderful listeners of RFM, thank you so much for your support. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless each and every one of you during this blessed month of Ramadan. Stay locked for more amazing shows. Amazing shows. Amazing shows.
Awarded the UK's Best Muslim Charity of the Year, Muslim Global Relief, bringing hope to life for 20 years in over 40 countries around the world. Every water pump you helped to install, every needy person you helped to feed, every orphan child that you sent to school has a powerful impact on people's lives. Let us continue to make change. Make a 100% zakat donation today. Visit muslimglobalrelief.org.
Ramadan Mubarak from Caprino's Pizza. After a long day of fasting, order our delicious pizzas, sides, cookies and much more to break your fast. During this Ramadan, we are offering 15% off if you order online, as well as free delivery, plus special offers if you collect. You can order from Just Eat, Deliveroo, Uber Eats and our website, caprinospizza.co.uk. For more details, contact 01908 675 947 or visit North 10th Street, Lloyd's